Hey guys, I am Dr. Anthony Gustin,
And I'm Chris Irvin.
and we're going to teach you how to eat out and order at restaurants on a ketogenic diet.
Yeah, another one of the big questions that we're always getting is how do we dine out? I think a lot of people when they go on diets in general, they become kind of fearful of dining out, don't you think?
Well, yeah, I think the biggest thing is they feel ostracized with their friends and family. Like, oh, okay, the weirdo wants to modify all of his meals and whatever. But like, trust me, I think the biggest step is just getting over it.
Yeah.
And just trying it a few times like anything new. But yeah, we're going to chat about places that you can choose that are going to make it easier, and then exactly what to order, and then maybe handling some objections after that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to address right from the start for everybody is that you can almost eat keto at nearly every restaurant.
Pretty much anywhere.
I haven't really come across many restaurants where I wasn't able to make a modification to eat keto. Even like Italian restaurants that tend to have a lot more pastas and carbs and stuff like that, I've been able to find keto options.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Yeah.
But if you are the one choosing the restaurant, there's clearly better ways to do this. So again, if you follow any of our stuff before, you're gonna know that we're pretty militant on our food quality and want to keep the bar really, really high. Usually it's just way easier, and if a restaurant is really high quality, like a farm-to-table restaurant, they're gonna be used to people having modifications and having special requests, and so it's gonna be way easier to place like that than kind of like a hole-in-the-wall type of joint.
Yeah, I know the first time I went to a farm-to-table place in Austin here, and I was asking questions about what my meat was going to be cooked in, they were completely open to it. They weren't using vegetable oils, but they weren't surprised by the question or anything like that. So you'll notice that if you go to a place like that, you're going to see a lot less resistance to it. At other restaurants, you may see a little bit of surprise or resistance to it because it's not as common to get those questions, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be asking them.
Yeah, and so like Chris said, you can do this at somewhere like an Italian restaurant. Not as easy, but most other cuisines are kind of up for it. Like a farm-to-table, new American style place is usually the easiest place that I've found. So start there. It's going to be way easier. But again, pretty much any restaurant, you can make the modifications that you need.
Yeah.
Step two is the actual modifications. Like when you look at a menu, what are the things that you go, oh, okay, this is going to be an easy thing to change up, or this is something that I'm just going to ditch altogether?
Yeah, I think the first thing that I'll look for is just to see what their salad choices are. I mean, some places have very awesome salad choices. Like Cobb salads are one of my favorites. If that's available, I'll usually just go straight for that. But there's some places that just don't have great salad options, or the majority of the stuff that's in the salad is like fruits and stuff that if you were to modify it, you're going to be having like a quarter of a meal.
Right.
So that'll usually be the first thing I look for. But then after that, it's usually just hit the meats and see what's on there.
I go straight to the meat. I'm a meat man. You know that. Yeah. So just go there, and then usually just asking about the sides and the sauces. And so that's the easiest way to do it. Then it's looking at the menu. It's usually pretty easy to be like, okay. The meat maybe has potatoes on it. I'm going to ask if there's another vegetable I can have. So then I'll look at kind of the structure of the meal as what I'm going to sub out. And so that's number one. So like just you guys, if you're watching this, you probably know what foods are keto, what are not. Get things that grow, get things that spoil, and eat that stuff. And then just ask for some subs. Easy. No bread on this. Skip the potatoes and maybe get another green, or is there any other vegetable you could do? Is a really easy choice to make.
Yeah, I would say between side salads and the variety of vegetables, sometimes there's seasonal vegetables, sometimes there's multiple different green vegetables that you can choose from. Most places are pretty open to you swapping those out. Maybe there's the occasional upcharge for something, but a couple dollar upcharge for getting to have some good vegetables in your meal is probably okay.
Yeah, and another thing too, like I've only had I think maybe a handful of times of being like, nope, it's just the potatoes and nothing else. And I just basically then at that point see if I can add in maybe an extra portion of protein.
Yeah.
And so that's an easy way to do it. I think the second level that a lot of people skip, and this is what makes restaurants so unhealthy, is what they're cooking the food in and what the sauces are made of. And so again, we're very strict on food quality, and just because it's so important. And I think that one of the biggest mistakes that people get, and they don't realize this, is how much vegetable oil and inflammatory oils are in foods and cooked in foods and in sauces at restaurants.
Yeah, and I know the podcast that you had with Jeff, you guys talked about this a little bit, but when we were in Thailand, we went to a cooking class and we were cooking all this Thai food. And when we were there, luckily we were using coconut oil because that's what they used at the place we were at. But the amount of coconut oil we were using was pretty high. It was like 6 tablespoons per dish. And we knew that like if you go to a Thai restaurant, they're not using coconut oil.
Right. And so actually in Thailand, we asked a lot, like, can you make the curry with coconut oil? Can you make it with olive oil? And they're totally down to do that. But yeah, I mean, let's say in a Thai meal, you're gonna go, okay, I'm gonna skip on the rice, but I'm gonna get this curry dish and this other stir fry. You can have pretty much up to 1 cup of vegetable oil, which is insane.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's crazy. You'll see when you go back into, if you go into the back of a restaurant and stuff, you'll see like these giant containers of oil that they're not even labeled. Like sometimes people don't even know what the vegetable oil is that's in there.
Right. And so I think the three biggest health choices that people can make to be healthier are, number one, cut out any sort of processed foods or grains. And number two, eliminate sugars. But number three is sneaky that a lot of people don't realize is eliminate vegetable oils. I think the number one thing that causes inflammation or stalls with people's diets or plateaus or anything like that, that they don't realize is vegetable oils. Like it's really inflammatory. They're awful. Almost every restaurant uses them, and they use it because it's cheap, and they don't know any better. And it's not like if they sub it up for an avocado oil, it's going to improve the taste of the meal. It doesn't really impact the taste at all.
Yeah.
And so it's just an economic thing for restaurants, unfortunately. And so if they can get peanut or soy oil for $1 a kilo versus a lot more for all of our avocado oil, they're going to take the cheaper option because people don't ask for it.
Yeah.
So that being said, what I'll generally ask at a restaurant, and it really depends on like how strict I'm at the time. If I'm out traveling, and I'm going to be traveling for like a week or two or three at a time, I'll be way more strict with it and say like, hey, does this, like, what are you guys cooking this in? And if not, can you check? And if you cook it in a vegetable oil or a soy oil or peanut oil or anything that's vegetable, then can you swap it out with either butter, avocado oil, or olive oil? And usually they're totally fine with that.
Yeah.
I've never had it be a thing where that's been a problem. It's either, no, we can't do that because the food's already pre-prepared. And otherwise, then I'll look for maybe another option. Or if I'm just like, if I'm at home and I'm generally making all my meals and it's one restaurant out of the course of like a 10, 15 day period, then I'll say, like, okay, whatever, like I'll have vegetable oil for one of 40 meals. It's not a big deal, but if I'm eating it a lot, this stuff's gonna add up. So then I'm pretty strict about it.
Yeah, and I think that's a really big point to drive home there is that what really matters is the frequency in which you're dining out. If it's something that you're only dining out occasionally, then maybe it's not something that you need to be so concerned about. But if you're somebody who maybe your job makes you have to dine out frequently, you're consistently entertaining colleagues and stuff like that, then that's probably a time where you need to be more strict to make sure that you're not accidentally consuming a ton of these pro-inflammatory oils. I think that another kind of sneaky place that these oils will sneak into is the dressings as well. A lot of people I've seen, just the other day I was at a diner and I saw them making the dressings in the back, and they were just pouring oil in this like mixer when they were making these dressings. So that's another thing too that we've talked about. Like if you're going to be having salads or whether it's a side salad or it's your main dish, it might be worth bringing your own dressing with or opting for like an oil rather than getting the ranch or blue cheese or whatever that they have at the restaurant.
Yeah. And then I think the last sneaky little place where people can put things in food, it would be sauces. And so a lot of times not only sauces have vegetable oil, but then they have a kind of a double whammy of sugar in it as well.
Yeah.
And so if there's any sauce in it, I just usually ask like, hey, can you put this on the side? If I taste it and it's a little sweeter at all, then I just usually skip it. But yeah, that's one of the things that, the sauces are pre-prepared, the dressings are pre-prepared. So generally you're better off just doing that and like getting it on the side or not having it at all and just getting an avocado or something like that.
Yeah. And one of the things that we're starting to see happen more frequently, I think, as the low carb trend is starting to get more popular, is that some places will actually allow you to swap out the bread dish for like pork rinds, which obviously pork rinds not super high quality,
right.
But if you're looking for a snack, a lot better than bread. I've started to see that a little bit more as well.
Right. One last tip is that on the meat quality, if it does not explicitly say grass-fed or where it's from or all this type of stuff, go to the leaner side rather than the fattier side.
Yeah.
So if you're getting conventional grain-fed type of stuff or just kind of a factory farm animal at a restaurant, anything that's pretty much bad in an animal is going to be stored in that fat. Pretty much anything good is going to be stored in that fat as well. And so when you're eating a nice grass-fed animal, go for the high-fat ribeyes, go for those things like that. But if you know that if you're kind of questioning maybe the meat quality, then skew towards the leaner side. So go to chicken breast, you have a flank steak, stuff like that. And make the leaner choices of the meats.
Yeah, and I think another point to just drive this all home too is that it can be uncomfortable, I think. Some people, they're not super fond of having to ask a lot of questions, and it can be kind of an uncomfortable experience. So a couple things you can do to avoid, well, first off, you shouldn't feel uncomfortable with it. You're making choices to improve your health. If anybody gives you a hard time for that, then they're just not in the same position you are with focusing on your health.
Truthfully, if anybody gives you a hard time about it, it's because they feel self-conscious that they feel like shit or look like shit.
Yeah.
And they want to make you feel bad that they don't have the courage to step up and actually make a choice that's bettering themselves. Like that's what I found with either people around me or what I've seen with other people around and kind of chastising their friends or family for making those choices. But like look them straight in the eye and say, like, hey, I'm trying to like make a healthier choice. Is that
Yeah.
Is that a problem with you? I mean, it's one of those things where I think people just usually feel self-conscious and then judge other people because of that.
Yeah, exactly. So if you are or if you're just somebody, you're in a position where you just don't feel super comfortable asking the questions, or you're afraid of the response you're going to get, a couple things you can do is call ahead of time to ask some of the questions that you have. That can be a good way to avoid some of that. And another thing that I recently had happen to me was when I asked a question about vegetable oils, I had somebody just say like, oh, well, are you allergic to them? And I just responded with, yes, absolutely I am. So that's another way you can address some of those questions is you can tell a little white lie and say you have some allergies as well. So.
Yeah, so now you guys know what restaurants to choose, what to do when you're at that restaurant, and maybe how to handle some of the objections.
Yeah.
So maybe if you had some questions about some of the restaurants you go to, some of the meals you like and modifications you want to make, throw that in the comments below and we'll get on there and answer those for you. And if you like it, like the video, subscribe. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm Dr. Anthony Gustin.
And I'm the Ketologist.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.